Morning, everyone. Okay, we'll continue with our book reading today. Toyota Way to Service Excellence by Jeffrey K. Liker and Karen Ross. And we're in chapter 8, micro level people principle, which says develop people to become masters of their craft. In past 2 days, we've been looking at developing people as an organizing principle, and we've also looked at limitations of organizational design and approaches to change. Okay, yesterday we continued from where we stopped, looking at approaches to change, and it identified 4 steps to change for approach to change. One is repeated action, repeated experience. And a micro level people principle, to make changes, you have to develop people's skill, develop people's mindsets, develop leaders as coaches, and balance extrinsic and intrinsic rewards. And we also have the pyramids by which you can implement this change. One is problem solving, one is the people, one is the process, and one is the philosophy. Today on page 264, we'll be looking at service for you learns to develop leaders using improvement kata and coaching kata. Using improvement kata and coaching kata. Sam McQueen and Sarah Stevens had just finished eating lunch in Sarah's office. It was hard for Sam to believe that almost a year had passed since he left NL Services. Leaning back in his chair, Sam shook his head and said, "Well, what they say about time moving more quickly as you get older really must be right." Looking at the calendar, I can see a year had passed, but it really seems like it's only been a moment that I've been here. Sarah laughed. "That's because we've done so much work and made so much progress. At NL Services, even when we put in a lot of time and effort doing things, it always seems like we just ended up in the same place, exactly where we started." Sam laughed as well. Sarah was right. At the NL Services, no matter how many long hours he put in and no matter how many initiatives were put in place, the company never seemed to make any progress. "That's a great observation," Sam said as he finished folding up the last bits of paper from his sandwich. And it's a great segue into our meeting topic for this afternoon. Just how much progress have we made this year at Service for You? Sarah and Sam spent the best part of the afternoon reviewing the targets and results for the different regions: customer satisfaction, client retention, new clients growth, and productivity. They were pleased to see that there had been a great deal of progress in many parts of the company. But as they reviewed the graph for each business unit, they noticed there was a few stats that exceeds expectation, a good number of units that barely made the numbers, and some laggards who seemed hopelessly behind. "Interesting," said Sarah as she moved some of the graphs around on the table and lined them up beside one another. "The Northwest Division is on fire, while the Southeast and Southwest divisions seem to be making steady progress. But the Northeast really seems to be lagging behind. I wonder why that is." Sam was silent for a moment, reviewing the graphs. "Hold on a minute," he said. He said to Sarah as he searched on his computer. "Look," he said, pulling up a copy of the company's org chart. I've just completed my annual review with the regional president, Doug Barnes. The regional president for the Northwest just couldn't stop talking about all the lean work that has been going on his regions. And I know he really knows what is going on. The facts, not just data from reports. And he's always in the regional office. Going to the Gemba to see for himself. He's even been out on sales calls with his sales managers and their reps. Yes, agreed Sarah. That's definitely true. I approved dog expense reports, and when I asked him about all the travel, he told me that it was a small price to pay for what he was learning and how he would be able to help his managers and supervisors develop themselves and their people. Nodding in agreement, Sam went on. Unfortunately, it doesn't seem to be the same for the Northeast. Maria Kansor, the regional president for the large northeastern region, just doesn't seem to be as actively involved in the lean effort. When I asked her about how she was monitoring her region's progress and teaching her leaders how to use lean principles, she could give me a few examples of lean projects that she had read reports about, but it didn't seem to me that she was as committed, as excited, or as personally invested in Doug was. As personally invested as Doug was. Sarah thought about it for a minute. I think you may be onto something, she said to Sam. I've noticed the same thing. When I asked her how people are doing, she seemed to give the right kind of answers, but then often follow-ups with something like, this linked stuff is harder than it looks. I miss the good old days when we just told people what to do and they did it. I wonder if she really focuses on developing her people's capability, and if she isn't, maybe that's one of the reasons that her region isn't making the same sort of progress that Dog region are. Yes, said Sam, I agree. And thinking back on it too, I guess I've spent more time with Dog and his leaders because he calls more often for my continuous improvement team's help. I haven't spent the same time focusing on Maria and her region either. Sam and Sarah were silent for a few minutes. Overall, they were pleased with the company's results, and they were excited that management culture seemed to be shifting to a long-term focus on developing people. But it was also clear to them that most of the company, the regions in which leaders were just playing with lean and were really relying on their past history of traditional command and control, wasn't progressing like the one part of the company with a passionate leader who was learning to lead with the right combination of understanding lean processes and knowing how to motivate people towards a common goal. Sam said to Sarah, I think that if we want to continue to make progress and not end up just like we are at NL Services in the long run, we are going to have to do some more work on this leadership team. For the most part, we still have a lot of leaders who started with, and we certainly don't have any strategy for promoting choosing a new leader. And we seem to be focusing our efforts on helping the leader who is already getting it, and paying less attention to those who don't. It seemed to me that to really become a culture of continuous improvement, we are going to have to make plans for developing our leaders so that they can develop their managers and supervisors too. I just wish I knew how to do that. Can't say that I do right now. Well, Sarah said, Sam, I can't say I know how to do that either, but I bet I know someone who does. 2 weeks later, Sam and Sarah had a conference call with Leslie Harris, the lean advisor, whom they had grown to trust deeply. Leslie listened carefully to their story, great observations and learning. She applauded Sam and Sarah. What you're noticing is a very common problem. And as you found out, unless you have the right leaders in place and they are learning and teaching others, you're going to see the uneven development that you're having now. Some areas blossoming and some areas stagnating. I would like to put you in touch with a colleague of mine, Dennis Garrett, who is very involved in a recent movement to lean towards a practice called Toyota Kata. Toyota Kata is an approach to developing people that first the way adults learn. Dennis is a real Kata gig, and I think he will be just the right person to help service for you, progress on leadership development, give you give the leaders the tools to change instead of expecting them to figure it out. Okay, this is where we'll stop for our reading this morning, talking about develop leaders using the improvement kata and coaching kata. So this is just another brief story of service for you. If we could remember vividly, in our previous pages we've read about how they started, how they identified their problems, how they made progress, how they involved everybody in their uh, problem identification, how they involved everybody in learning and development, and so on. So today, under developing people to master their crafts, like I said in chapter 8, here, developing people as an organizing principle, developing people to become masters of their craft. We're still going to read about service for you. We're still going to see how they are going to solve this problem which they actually have now, whereby some branches are developing while some branches are just stagnated, which is what this this chapter is going to talk about: developing people, continuous learning, respect for people, improvement and growth for everyone in an organization. So this little story had told us that in an organization, every person, every part of an organization needs to develop, so that everyone can win and be successful at the same time, not some lagging behind and then some improving. So as we go further, we will learn their tools, strategies, and trick of how they became successful and how they continue to improve and how they developed their leaders using improvement kata and coaching kata. So this is your stop for our reading this morning. Thank you.